Ambassador had worked in galactic diplomacy for over 60 years. He had seen many strange things during his time. He had visited planets where the sky burned orange and the rain fell upward. He had met species with 12 eyes and species with no eyes at all. He had watched wars begin and end across star systems. But nothing had ever confused him like the humans. The Galactic Accord Summit was being held on Station Meridian, a massive space station floating between 3 star systems. It was neutral ground. Every major power in the galaxy sent their representatives here. The Empire sent warriors in heavy armor carrying plasma rifles. The Collective brought guards in powered suits with energy shields. The Syndicate representatives traveled with assassins wearing weapons that could cut through steel. Himself had brought 6 guards. Each one stood 7 feet tall. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small building. This was normal. This was expected. Diplomacy was dangerous work. People with power had enemies. Guards needed weapons to protect their masters. Then the humans arrived. Was standing near the main docking port when their ship connected to the station. He watched the airlock open with mild curiosity. Humans were a young species. They had only been part of galactic civilization for about 200 years. They were small, soft-looking creatures. Most species did not pay them much attention. The first person through the airlock was a small woman. She had black hair tied back from her face and wore simple blue robes. This was Ambassador, had read her file. She was experienced and well-respected among her people. Behind her walked 3 more humans, 2 men and 1 woman. The first man was named. He was the oldest of the 3 guards, perhaps 40 years by human counting. He had a calm face and moved with a strange smoothness like water flowing over rocks. The second man he was younger, maybe 25 years. He had quick eyes that seemed to notice everything around him. The woman she was small even for a human, but she walked with perfect balance like a dancer. They all wore simple uniforms. No weapons. No armor. Nothing. Blinked all 4 of his eyes. He looked again. Perhaps he had missed something. Perhaps humans carried hidden weapons. But no, he could see nothing. Their uniforms were tight enough that hiding a weapon would be impossible. "What foolishness is this?" muttered his assistant. "Do they mean to insult us, to show that they do not take this summit seriously?" Did not answer. He was watching something else. A group of warriors was walking down the corridor. There were massive creatures, 8 feet tall with 4 arms and thick natural armor covering their bodies. They were known throughout the galaxy as fierce fighters. They feared nothing and no one. They were walking directly toward the humans. Then something strange happened. The lead warrior saw the humans. He slowed down. He looked at the 3 guards in their uniforms. Then, without saying a word, he changed direction. He led his entire group down a side corridor, taking a longer path to wherever they were going. The Had avoided the humans. Felt something cold move through his body. He had never seen warriors avoid anyone. They walked through crowds like they owned every space they entered. They pushed past other species without a second thought. But they had gone out of their way to not cross paths with 3 unarmed humans. Over the next few hours, watched the human delegation carefully. He saw the same thing happen again and again. Species that should have ignored the humans gave them space. Warriors who carried weapons worth more than small planets stepped aside to let the humans pass. Ambassador walked through the station like she was taking a pleasant stroll. Her 3 guards moved around her in a loose formation. They never seemed tense. They never seemed worried. They smiled politely at other delegates. They made small talk with station workers. And everyone was afraid of them. Could see it now that he was looking for it. It was in the way other species held their bodies. It was in the quick glances and the careful distances. It was in the silence that fell over rooms when the humans entered. Said quietly, "I want you to find me everything we have on human military capabilities, everything classified, everything restricted. I want to know what we are dealing with." Ambassador looked confused. "They are humans, a minor species. What could possibly be worth investigating?" "That is exactly what I want to find out." That night could not sleep. He kept thinking about what he had seen. The confident way the human guards moved, the fear in the eyes of species that should fear nothing, the complete absence of weapons on people who were clearly dangerous. It did not make sense. In his experience, dangerous beings showed their danger. They carried big weapons. They wore impressive armor. They made threats and displayed their power for all to see. The humans did none of this. They smiled. They were polite. They dressed simply and carried nothing. And yet, something about them made the deadliest warriors in the galaxy step aside. Remembered an old saying from his, "Fear the beast that does not roar, for it has no need to warn you." He had always thought it was just a saying, a piece of wisdom from ancient times that had no meaning in the modern galaxy. Now he was not so sure. What did the humans know that he did not? What secret were they keeping? Why did they send their peace delegation guards without weapons when every other species armed their guards to the teeth? Decided he would find answers. He would watch. He would listen. He would dig into whatever classified files he could access. He had a feeling that what he discovered would change how he saw the galaxy forever. The humans were hiding something. Something big. Something that made them walk through a station full of armed soldiers like they were walking through a garden. And was going to find out what it was. 3 days passed at the summit. Attended meetings and negotiations like he was supposed to. But his mind was always on the humans. He watched them whenever he could. He noticed small things that other people missed. He noticed how the human guards always knew where everyone in a room was standing. Their eyes moved constantly, checking doors and windows and corners. They did this so smoothly that most people would never see it, but was looking for it now. He noticed how they positioned themselves around Ambassador. They were never in her way. They never blocked her view or interrupted her conversations, but they were always close enough to reach her in a second. They moved like they had practiced their positions 1,000 times. He noticed that they never seemed tired. Other guards shifted their weight from foot to foot. They yawned. They looked bored during long meetings. The human guards stood perfectly still for hours. Their attention never dropped. Their focus never broke. These were small things, easy to miss, but they painted a picture that made uncomfortable. On the 3rd day, everything changed. The negotiations between the Empire and the Collective had been difficult from the start. Both sides blamed each other for a border conflict that had killed thousands. Both sides wanted the other to pay for the damage. Neither side was willing to give ground. Was in the room when it happened. So were delegations from 12 different species. The human delegation was there too, sitting quietly in the corner observing. Commander of the Empire was speaking. He was a famous warrior. He had killed 30 enemies in ritual combat. He was missing one eye from a battle wound and wore the scar proudly. His voice was loud and angry. "They are cowards and liars," shouted. "They hide behind their shields and their treaties. They do not deserve to sit at this table." The ambassador, a being made mostly of light and crystal, flickered with anger. "They are beasts. They understand only violence. They should be put down like the animals they are." Roared, his hand went to his belt. He drew his ceremonial blade, a curved weapon made of black metal. It was supposed to be decorative. All weapons at the summit were supposed to be peace-bonded, unable to be used, but had clearly disabled the safety locks. He lunged at the ambassador. Everything happened very fast. Saw the blade rising. He saw the ambassador trying to move back. He knew there was no time. The blade would hit. Someone was about to die. The summit would collapse into violence. Then moved. Could not track what happened. His eyes were not fast enough. One moment the young human guard was standing by the wall 10 feet away from. The next moment he was simply there, between and the ambassador. His hand caught his wrist. There was a twisting motion, a sound like dry branches breaking. The blade flew across the room and clattered against the far wall. Was on the ground. His arm was bent in a way that arms should not bend. He was screaming. No, realized he was wrong, was not screaming. He was crying. The mighty warrior who had killed 30 enemies, who wore his scars with pride, was crying like a frightened child. Tears ran down his face. His whole body was shaking. He kept saying one word over and over in his native language. Demon, demon, demon. Stood over him. His face had not changed expression. He looked calm, almost bored. He had not broken a sweat. He had not even breathed hard. He had just disabled one of the deadliest warriors in the galaxy like he was swatting a fly. The whole thing had taken less than 2 seconds. "Please remain calm," said Ambassador. Her voice was gentle, like she was speaking to frightened children. "My colleague has subdued the threat. Medical attention will arrive shortly. Let us take a short break and then we can continue our discussions." She had not even stood up from her chair. Looked around the room. Every face showed the same expression: shock, fear, disbelief. Even the other warriors in Delegation looked terrified. They were staring at like he was a monster from their worst nightmares. Medical teams arrived and took away. His arm would need serious reconstruction. Some whispered that he might never use it again. The summit continued. Negotiations resumed, but something had changed. Everyone was more polite now. Everyone was more careful. No one raised their voice or made threats. And everyone was very aware of where the human guards were standing. That night finally received the files he had requested. Classified intelligence reports on human military capabilities. He took them to his private quarters and locked the door. He started reading. He read for 6 hours without stopping. When he finished, he sat in silence for a long time. His 4 hearts were beating too fast. His hands were shaking. He felt like he had just discovered that the ground he was standing on was actually the back of a sleeping giant. Everything he thought he knew about humans was wrong. Everything the galaxy thought it knew about humans was wrong. They were not a minor species. They were not soft. They were not harmless. They were something else entirely. And now understood why their guards came unarmed. He understood, and he was terrified. The classified file was titled Human Combat Capability Assessment. It was marked with the highest security level that had access to. Someone had worked very hard to gather this information. Someone had wanted the hegemony to know what humans were capable of. Read it 3 times because he could not believe it the first 2 times. The file started with basic biology. Humans were evolved predators. This was not unusual. Many species in the galaxy had predator ancestors, but humans were a special kind of predator. They were what the file called persistence hunters. Most predators in the galaxy used speed or strength to catch their prey. They attacked quickly and either succeeded or gave up. Humans did something different. Humans chased their prey until it died from exhaustion. The human body was designed for this. They could regulate their temperature through sweating, which let them run in heat that would kill other animals. They could run for hours, for days, without stopping. They tracked their prey over vast distances, never giving up, never stopping, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion and terror. On there, humans were the nightmare that never stopped following. But that was just the beginning. The file explained how humans had evolved on a planet that was trying to kill them. Earth, they called it. The planet had extreme temperatures, violent weather, poisonous plants, and dangerous animals. The oxygen levels were so high that humans burned more energy than most species. This made them more aggressive, more driven, more dangerous. And because resources were limited on Earth, humans had learned to compete with the most dangerous predator of all: each other. The file contained records of human history, read about their wars, not just one or two wars, thousands of wars. Humans had been fighting each other since before they had written language. They had developed weapons and tactics and strategies for killing their own kind over tens of thousands of years. They had created something called martial arts. These were systems for fighting without weapons. Humans had hundreds of different martial arts. Each one was designed for different situations, fighting in close spaces, fighting multiple enemies, fighting when injured, fighting to disable, fighting to kill. The file contained video recordings. Watched humans fight. He saw a small human woman defeat a man twice her size. She moved faster than his eyes could follow. She used his own weight against him. She bent his joints in directions they were not supposed to go. He tapped on the ground 3 times, which apparently meant he was giving up. The fight had lasted 19 seconds. Watched more videos. He saw humans breaking concrete blocks with their hands. He saw them taking hits that would kill most species and continuing to fight. He saw them training in conditions that would be considered torture by galactic standards. Cold, heat, exhaustion, pain, hunger. Humans trained through all of it. They made themselves harder, tougher, more dangerous. Then found the section on human military history. He learned about something called Special Operations Forces. These were humans selected from among the already dangerous regular military. They were trained even harder. They could survive in any environment. They could go without sleep for days. They could kill silently with their bare hands. They learned to use anything as a weapon, a rock, a piece of cloth, a writing tool. The file said that a trained human special operator could kill someone with a rolled-up piece of paper. Did not believe this at first. Then he watched a training video that proved it was true. But the most terrifying part of the file was not about individual humans. It was about what happened when humans worked together. The file described something called World War II. Had to read the translation several times to understand the scale. Millions of humans had died. Entire cities had been destroyed. Humans had built weapons that could level whole regions with a single explosion. They called these weapons nuclear bombs. The humans had built thousands of them, enough to destroy their entire planet many times over. And then they had chosen not to use them. This was what made hands shake. The humans had created weapons of total destruction. They had held the power to end their own species, and they had looked at that power and decided no. Not because they could not use them, not because someone stopped them. Because they chose peace. Thought about what this meant. The humans were not peaceful because they were weak. They were peaceful because they had seen what they were capable of. They had looked into the darkest parts of themselves. They had built the tools for their own extinction. And they had walked back from the edge. He understood now why the human guards carried no weapons. It was not because they could not fight. It was because they did not need weapons to fight. Their bodies were weapons. Their minds were weapons. Thousands of years of evolution and training and warfare had made them into the most efficient killers in the galaxy. They carried no weapons because they did not want to insult everyone else. A human with a gun was not more dangerous than a human without one. The gun was just a tool. The human was the weapon. The guards at the peace delegation were not ordinary soldiers. The file identified them by name. And all 3 were former members of human special forces. All 3 had spent decades learning how to kill. They had been sent unarmed because armed, they would be too frightening. Armed, other species might panic. Armed, they might start the wars they were trying to prevent. Unarmed, they were simply 3 quiet people in uniforms. Unarmed, they were the most dangerous beings on the station. And they were here to keep the peace. Closed the file. He sat in the darkness of his room and thought about everything he had learned. He had always believed that power came from weapons, from ships, from armies, from the ability to destroy. But humans had taught themselves something different. They had learned that true power was control. The ability to destroy meant nothing if you destroyed everything. True strength was knowing when not to fight. The humans had learned this lesson through blood and fire and millions of dead. They had earned their peace the hard way. And now they were offering that peace to the galaxy. Wondered if the galaxy was wise enough to accept it. The final day of the summit arrived. After the incident with Commander, the negotiations had gone smoothly. No one wanted to cause trouble. No one wanted to attract the attention of the human guards. Treaties were signed. Agreements were made. It seemed like real progress was being achieved. Should have known it would not last. The closing ceremony was held in the Grand Hall of Station Meridian. It was a beautiful room with high ceilings and windows that looked out at the stars. Representatives from all the major powers were present. Hundreds of diplomats and guards and assistants filled the space. Ambassador sat at the human delegation's table. Her 3 guards stood behind her in their usual positions. On the left, directly behind, on the right, they looked relaxed. They looked calm. They looked like they were attending a boring meeting. Knew better now. He could see how they watched the room. He could see the small movements of their eyes as they tracked every person who entered or left. He could see how they had positioned themselves so that each one covered a different section of the hall. They were not relaxed. They were coiled springs waiting to release. The Galactic Council President was giving a speech about peace and cooperation when the attack began. Later, investigators would piece together what happened. A faction that opposed the peace accords had hired 12 syndicate assassins. The syndicate were the galaxy's most expensive killers. They took contracts that no one else would take. They had a perfect record. They had never failed. They had been paid more money than some planets were worth to kill Ambassador. The assassins had disguised themselves as servants and maintenance workers. They had spent days getting into position. They had weapons hidden throughout the Grand Hall. They had planned every detail. At exactly the right moment, 12 killers revealed themselves. Was sitting 3 tables away from the humans. He saw everything that happened. Later, he would wish he had not. The images would stay with him for the rest of his life. The first assassin appeared behind Ambassador. He had a neural disruptor pointed at her head. It was a weapon that killed instantly by destroying the brain. He never fired. Moved. Had seen move during the incident that had been fast, was faster. He seemed to disappear from one place and appear in another. His hand closed around the assassin's wrist. There was a sharp twist. The weapon fell. The assassin's neck bent at an impossible angle. He was dead before he hit the ground. 2 more assassins rushed forward from different directions. Did not slow down. He stepped toward the first one and drove his palm into the assassin's face. There was a wet crunching sound. The assassin dropped, was already turning to the second one. He grabbed the assassin's arm, pulled him off balance, and drove an elbow into his throat. The assassin collapsed, choking on his own crushed windpipe. 3 dead in less than 3 seconds. But there were 9 more. 4 assassins were coming at Ambassador from the front, stepped forward to meet them. She was the smallest of the 3 guards. She was facing 4 armed killers. She smiled. The first assassin swung a blade at her head, ducked under it, stepped inside his reach, and struck him twice in the chest. The blows looked light, almost gentle. The assassin flew backward like he had been hit by a transport vehicle. He crashed into a table and did not move again. The second assassin fired a pulse weapon, was not standing where the shot was aimed. She had already moved. Her hand caught his wrist, redirected the weapon toward the third assassin, and forced him to fire. The third assassin took the shot in the chest and went down. Then's elbow came up and struck the second assassin in the throat. He fell, gasping for air that would not come. The fourth assassin tried to run, caught him in 2 steps. She grabbed his head with both hands and twisted. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. 4 more dead. The fight had been going for maybe 5 seconds. Handled the remaining 5 assassins. Watched the young human move through the killers like a dancer moving through a crowd. There was something beautiful about it, something terrible. Did not waste a single motion. Every step had a purpose. Every movement flowed into the next. He took a decorative plate from a nearby table and threw it. The edge caught an assassin in the throat. While that one was falling, was already dealing with the next. He caught a knife that was swinging at his face, turned it around and drove it into its owner's chest. One assassin fired an energy weapon at him from 10 feet away, was not there when the shot arrived. He had moved sideways, closed the distance, and broken the assassin's arm before the shooter even realized he had missed. The weapon fell, kicked it up into the air, caught it, and fired twice. 2 more assassins dropped. The last assassin tried to surrender. He threw down his weapon and raised his hands. He was begging for mercy. Did not slow down. The assassin died with a look of surprise on his face. Looked at his timepiece. The entire attack had lasted 11 seconds. 12 of the galaxy's deadliest killers, assassins with a perfect record, had been destroyed by 3 unarmed humans in the time it took most people to understand that something was happening. The Grand Hall was silent. Hundreds of diplomats and guards stood frozen, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Ambassador had not moved from her seat. Her drink was still in her hand. She had not spilled a drop. She looked around the room calmly, as if nothing unusual had happened. "My apologies for the disruption," she said. Her voice was gentle and polite. "These things are unfortunately common for human diplomats. Shall we continue with the treaty signing?" No one answered. No one could speak. And returned to their positions behind her. They were not breathing hard. They were not sweating. They looked exactly as calm as they had before the attack. Their uniforms did not even have blood on them. Looked at the bodies scattered around the hall. 12 dead assassins. 12 of the most expensive killers money could buy. And 3 unarmed humans who had killed them like they were performing a simple chore. He understood now why the humans had no need for weapons. The weapons would only slow them down. The summit ended 2 days after the assassination attempt. Treaties were signed. Alliances were formed. The Galactic Council called it the most successful peace conference in 50 years. Knew the real reason for the success. No one wanted to cause trouble when the humans were watching. No one wanted to attract the attention of those 3 guards in uniforms. Before the human delegation left, requested a private meeting with Ambassador. He had questions that needed answers. He had spent days thinking about what he had seen. He needed to understand. Ambassador agreed to meet him in a small conference room near the docking port. She arrived alone. Her 3 guards waited outside the door. Felt strange being in a room with her without those guards present. He knew she was just a diplomat, just a small human woman in blue robes, but he could not help feeling that he was in the presence of something dangerous. "Ambassador," said warmly, "I am glad you asked to see me. Your people have been important partners at this summit." Ambassador tried to keep his voice steady. "I need to understand something. I have been watching your delegation since you arrived. I have read classified files about your species. I watched what your guards did during the assassination attempt." Nodded, her face showed nothing but polite interest. "Your guards carry no weapons," continued. "Every other species brings armed soldiers to protect their ambassadors, but your guards come with empty hands. At first, I thought this was foolish. Then I thought it was arrogance. Now I think it is something else entirely." "What do you think it is, Ambassador?" Leaned forward. "I think it is a message. I think you are telling the galaxy something, but I want to hear it from you. Why do your peace delegation guards come unarmed?" Was quiet for a moment. She seemed to be deciding how much to tell him. Then she smiled. It was a kind smile, but now understood what lay beneath that kindness. He had seen what her people could do. "May I be honest with you, Ambassador?" "Please." Stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars for a long moment before speaking. "Weapons can be taken away," she said. "Weapons can malfunction. Weapons need power cells and ammunition and maintenance. If you give a guard a gun, you are trusting that the gun will work when it is needed." She turned to face him. "My guards are not people who carry weapons. My guards are weapons. They cannot be disarmed because there is nothing to take away from them. Their training, their skills, their instincts. These things are part of them. They cannot be removed." Nodded slowly. He had suspected this. "But there is more to it than that," continued. "If we sent our guards with visible weapons, it would send the wrong message. It would say that we expect violence, that we are prepared to fight, that we see everyone as a potential enemy. And the message you want to send? We want peace." His voice was firm and clear. Truly, genuinely, desperately. Humans want peace. We spent thousands of years learning what happens when we do not have peace. We fought wars that killed millions of our own people. We built weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We looked into the darkness inside ourselves and we saw what we were capable of. She paused. "And we chose to turn away from that darkness. We chose peace. Not because we were forced to, not because we were too weak to fight. We chose peace because we understood what war really costs." Thought about the classified files he had read, the history of human warfare, the weapons they had built, the millions who had died. "You are saying that your desire for peace is a choice," he said, "not a weakness." "Exactly," smiled again. "The galaxy looks at humans and sees a young species, small, soft, friendly. We want to make friends. We want to trade and cooperate and build things together. And many species mistake this for weakness." She walked closer too. Her eyes were steady and calm. "We are not harmless, Ambassador. We have simply chosen to do no harm. There is a very big difference." Felt a chill move through his body. He understood now. He understood everything. "Your guards carry no weapons because they do not need them," he said slowly. "But more than that, they carry no weapons because if they did, everyone would be afraid. Everyone would see them as a threat, and that would make peace harder." "Yes. So you hide your strength. You smile and make friends and sign treaties. And everyone thinks you are just a harmless young species trying to find your place in the galaxy." "Not hiding," corrected gently. "Just not displaying. We do not pretend to be weak. We simply do not advertise our strength. If someone attacks us, they learn the truth quickly enough, as those assassins did." Remembered the 11 seconds in the Grand Hall. 12 dead killers. 3 calm humans returning to their positions like nothing had happened. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Why reveal your secret?" Looked at him thoughtfully. "Because I believe you understand. I watched you at this summit, Ambassador. You are not like the others. You observe. You think. You ask questions instead of making assumptions." She placed a hand on his arm. Her touch was light and warm. "The galaxy needs species who understand that strength and violence are not the same thing. The galaxy needs leaders who know that peace is not weakness. I am telling you because I hope you will help spread this understanding." Was silent for a long moment. He thought about everything he had learned. He thought about with their massive fleets and proud warriors. The Syndicate with their assassins and criminal networks. His own people, with their orbital weapons platforms. They all believed that power came from the ability to destroy. But the humans had shown him something different. They had mastered destruction. They had built weapons that could end worlds. They had fought wars that made other species' conflicts look like children's games. And then they had chosen peace. That choice, made by a species that could kill with their bare hands, was the most powerful thing had ever encountered. "The galaxy's most dangerous secret," he said quietly. "It is not a weapon or a technology. It is you. It is what humans have become." nodded. "We are the proof that it is possible, that a species can learn from its mistakes, that violence does not have to be the only answer, that strength can be used to protect instead of destroy." She stepped back and straightened her robes. "Our guards come unarmed because we want the galaxy to see who we are choosing to be, not what we are capable of becoming." The door opened and stepped inside. They moved to their positions around Ambassador, 3 quiet people in uniforms, 3 of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. And they were here to keep the peace. "Thank you for this conversation," Ambassador said. "I hope we will meet again under equally peaceful circumstances." She walked toward the door, her guards moved with her, smooth, calm, deadly. Watched them go. He thought about everything he had learned. He thought about what he would tell his own people when he returned home. The humans had shared their secret with him, not the secret of how dangerous they were. Everyone would learn that soon enough. The real secret, the important one. That peace was not the absence of strength. Peace was the presence of choice, the decision to build instead of destroy, to protect instead of attack, to extend an open hand instead of a closed fist. The humans had learned this lesson through blood and fire and millions of dead. They had earned their peace the hardest way possible. And now they were offering to share that lesson with the galaxy. Hope the galaxy was wise enough to listen. He had a feeling that the species that did listen would be the ones that survived. And the ones that did not. Well, he had seen what happened to the assassins. 11 seconds, 12 bodies. 3 unarmed humans. The galaxy's most dangerous secret was not that humans were deadly. The galaxy's most dangerous secret was that humans were kind. And that kindness was a choice they made every single day. That was what made them terrifying. That was what made them wonderful. That was why their peace delegation guards came unarmed. Not because they could not fight. Because they had already won.